Welcome to the Healing Pod. I'm Megan, a licensed clinical psychologist.
And I'm Jessica, a licensed clinical social worker, and this is our journey of navigating anxiety as we learn to take up space and create an environment where we feel that we can belong.
Join us together as we learn not just to survive, but to thrive in our anxious brains.
This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional therapy or medical advice. If you are experiencing any mental health concerns, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or healthcare provider. Remember, your mental health is important, and seeking personalized professional help is key to your well-being.
And welcome back. So we are on an actual schedule now, in theory, for the week, which we will be continuing to do because this is fun. So hopefully we got some of you guys to stick around after the first few episodes and wanting to come back and hear us again.
Yes, so welcome. We are so excited to be here tonight and to kind of reflect and just kind of get some footing and some further processing on that amazing recording we did with Elizabeth. That was so much fun.
Right? Yeah. I'm excited for her to come back sometime. She was great to have on here. She really was. And she's
Yes.
amazing. Maybe we can get her to do another song.
Yes.
Right?
A live one
We
this
should.
one.
Ooh. We'll work towards that one. Right. But yeah, so with Elizabeth, there was a lot of different ways of communicating and standing her ground. So I know she is amazing and does 20,000 things like we all like to do, but she does them really, really well. And I love how she just is herself and presents herself for all the things. She has found the way to say, "This is my voice," in so many different formats, which I think I love a lot because it is something I would love to be able to have that ability to do. Because I feel like I love doing different things. I love trying different things. And like this is a different thing for us. How do I find my voice here, talking to people online in a podcast? How do I find my voice in in a group practice? How do I find my voice as a clinician? How do I find my voice as an administrator? Just all of these different areas that feel like slightly different ways of needing to communicate to me.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just in awe of her. So even, as she said that I'm still, trying to figure out my anxiety and I just take it day by day. And I think, is it worth missing out on this or am I going to, just do it anyways, even though it could turn out bad? Um, and I feel, like we have that imposter syndrome and we're like, we're still trying to do that. But kind of reflecting over that recording that we did with her and all the things and kind of where we are today, right? Like we're on episode 4 of our podcast. And as much as I find myself saying, oh, we're going to try and do a podcast, like we're doing this. We jumped in even though we had that anxiety. And we really, like, if you think about it, we do it every single day. Like we feel this anxiety, we have it, but we don't let it hold us back from those things that we really want and that we set ourselves out to do. Like you jumping into your practice and me jumping into mine, right? And going to all of these trainings that we do to be better clinicians and adding all the value that we do for our personal lives so that we can explore the things that we want.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think it comes back to that comment we were making with Elizabeth of we do need to practice this. We need to fail. We need to practice failing. We need to be okay if the things that we put out there aren't good. You know, if the things we put out there have 10 seconds of silence because the audio just got eaten somewhere. I'm not sure how that one happened, but it did. You know, it totally happened. You know, we and I'm still alive. I'm still 10 seconds of silence. I'm still alive. This is good.
Mhm.
You haven't kicked me off as the editor of our podcast and just hired someone else in my place for episode 4.
Sorry, you're stuck. You are our editor. I'll keep making social media posts. We got this.
Delegating. We are delegating the task the other person does well. Jessica makes the lovely social media post. I find the random memes to respond to people with in them.
Yeah. So if you want to troll us, got you. Megan will be in those comments.
Pointless internet arguments bring me joy. because I can just go click and walk away when I don't want to. And it is like you were saying, just that aspect of I think with masking with anxiety, with all that, I have become very adept at sitting here and being just on that happy edge of a panic attack, and it just makes my RBF stronger, like, "Nope, mm-mm." It's like, I am, like, about to freak out, it's like, "Mm, no, we're just gonna sit here, and we're just gonna stare at the person, we're just gonna breathe, we're gonna sit in a corner a little more," and it's not always that anxious energy where I'm talking 20,000 miles an hour and I can't sit still and I'm jittery. Sometimes it's that anxious shutdown energy. And I
Mhm.
am very firmly holding myself exactly still because I have to be in this space and I have to do this thing. And if I give myself too much space, I'm afraid it'll go to that other wobbly space.
The wobbly space I just gave us kicking my
Yeah,
desk.
yeah, that one. The
Yes.
literal she needed the demonstration. I needed the demonstration, just provided it. This is the kind of partnership we have.
Yes, absolutely.
But
Do
it's
you do you find that you feed off of other people's anxiety? So, for example, I notice it most when I have extremely anxious clients. And it's mostly when I can feel it the most in my body and like I can feel myself picking it up is when we're sitting in my office versus being out. So my favorite way to do therapy is to be out walking, being in nature, being with the horses. But sometimes that's just not the case and we sit in my office. And it's almost like I can feel it in my head. Like I almost feel dizzy,
Mm.
but I maintain my therapist face, right? Like it's not my place to put my anxiety out there. So let's kind of work through yours, but when I'm reflecting afterwards, I'm always like, "Oh, it makes me feel, like, really dizzy, and it's I'm anxious because you're anxious, and I'm feeding on this together." But I notice as we go through the session, as they start to regulate, I start to regulate myself.
Mm, definitely. I know, and it is different with the different flavors of anxiety that people bring in, my office, family, wife, everything, like, there are different sensations and feelings of it, so when I'm working in my office, I have a few clients that if the weather's nice, we can go out and walk, and for my different clients I can do this with, I can tell when we start to regulate when our pace is an actual normal walking pace, which is also one of my tells that my wife uses for me a lot. If we're out walking the dogs and she needs to grab my arm and pull me backwards, it's because I'm talking and ruminating about stuff and trying to figure through it. And I'm walking like a 15-minute mile pace, which is
Mhm.
actually possible, surprisingly enough. You can't maintain that, but you can walk that pace with dedication. Yes.
Yes.
Our
I always
normal
know.
pace, yeah.
Right, I always know how I'm feeling based on how quickly I'm walking, so
Mhm.
there's my, like, I need to get somewhere, I have this done, or I have too much on my mind, and I'm walking with a mission, and then I'm walking
Yes.
much faster than usually everybody around
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I am like a slow poke, you need to drag me around like a two-year-old.
Mhm. So it's like it's very obvious and very clear in those moments, and that is that trigger for me. If I know it's mine, it's there beforehand. And it's like, oh, I'm anxious. I'm going to give it to my client, so I need to work and regulate myself to come in. If it starts when the client comes in, that gives me that nice trigger of, oh, this isn't mine. I need to regulate myself and I need to kind of hold the space and I need to be curious about what's going on with this anxiety. I don't have to keep it and I don't
Mhm.
have to add the extra layers of, oh, look, the clinician's anxious today. Are you being a good clinician? Are you being bad at your job? Like, I don't have to add that nonsense on top of it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one
No.
because I'm like, and there's times where I'll be like, I am picking up what you're putting down. So
Mhm.
let's process through this. Let's take a deep breath. And what is going on today? What are we holding? What can we let go of?
Mhm. Yeah. And I find the stating the obvious like that really does seem to help. Like, "Ooh, I am feeling something in this room." And much also like farting, sometimes I just blame the dog. I'm like, "Look, he's" The little kids love that one. It's like, "Oh, I am feeling something today, and you're feeling something today," and we can physically see how Kirby is acting and how he is feeling it, and I haven't lost any other stress balls since that last time, so we're actually doing pretty good.
Kirby's
I know,
got
right?
this. He's a pro now.
He does. But it gives me that cheat code of taking that step away and like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's outside of me, it's not just me." And how can I take that breath, adjust myself, resettle into my seat, and what does that do to the environment? What does that do for Kirby? What does that do for my client? If I do that, do they keep going and spinning? And if that's the case, can I say, "Hey, I'm noticing a lot of anxiety in this room. Can you do this with me? Let's just settle for a second and see what happens."
Yes. Do you have any advice on how people, since you work a lot with kids, right? On how parents who are struggling with their own anxiety, their own emotional regulation can translate that and help calm themselves so they can work with their kids and navigate that anxiety together. Because I don't think the parents always realize when you're anxious and you're struggling and you're
Mhm,
having a hard time emotionally regulating, it's not that your kid is like, "Oh, let me see if I can poke those nerves a little bit more." They're feeling that and they're
mhm.
usually reciprocating.
Yeah. I mean, so often, um, so the way I'll try to explain it to parents with kids is you have a child size cup and an adult size cup. And the child size cup, if you try to dump the extra emotions from the adult size cup in it, will overflow much quicker. The adult size cup can hold more of the child emotions if you dump them in there, but it's still going to overflow, especially if it has other stuff in there. So that back and forth of each person trying to dump into the other one's cup, there's just a mess of soda all over the place. Instead, we want to use a lot of narration, like talking out loud. Whew. Wow, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm going to take a breath before I answer this question. This is a giant mess in the room. I need to sit down for 5 seconds and count all the red things I see before I stand up and pick it. Like saying this stuff out loud gives the examples for your children to follow along with. It shows them that my parents are anxious. My parents have emotions. They're not robot. If I poke them, it does bother them and it's okay, and just because they have emotions doesn't mean they're yelling at me. Doesn't mean it's my fault, doesn't mean I'm in trouble for it. You're modeling how to navigate through those, how to self-soothe, how to use a timeout, how to calm yourself down. Timeouts aren't actually punishment, they're actually regulation time. Please take them as parents. Please take them as non-parents. Please just take lots of timeouts in your life. It's kind of like nap time. It should not have ended with kindergarten. You should have kept it.
And we can bring it back. It's not too late.
I want it back so badly. Just 1 o'clock nap time, please. Anyone?
Yes. No, and that is excellent advice, like, being aware of that size of their cup, right? Like, they're little people, they're learning and they're observing, and I know that there is this even today, there's still this strong mentality of, "I'm the adult, you're the child," like, I can do no wrong, like, I'm not apologizing to you, and to me, like, that is one thing that I am striving to change. I work with a lot of veterans and first responders,
Mhm.
and we kinda talk through that of, yes, there is discipline and there's being strict and having your expectations of how you want your child to be. I am probably more strict parent than a lot of the kids at my daughter's school, right? Like, when I kinda see that balance between them. But at the same time, I am the first one to say I'm sorry when my overstimulated, overwhelmed button has been pushed, and I find myself being too much in my head, and maybe I'm, in the kitchen cooking and there's somebody like 3 little hands pulling on the bottom of my shirt, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, mommy," right? And usually I'm like,
Oh.
"What do you want?" And then I'm like,
Mhm.
"I'm sorry. Mommy is frustrated. It is not your fault. I didn't mean to
Mhm.
yell. What do you need?" And sometimes we just have to take that pause, and it's showing them it is okay to say, "I'm sorry. I actually didn't mean to yell at you, and I didn't
Mhm.
do anything wrong per se,
Yes.
but I expressed my frustration at you instead of taking a moment to breathe." And we're human. And I always tell people,
Mhm.
I'm a freaking therapist and I still have moments where my button is popped.
Mhm.
So I take a moment, say you're sorry, and
Yes.
kind of what are you trying to convey to them so they understand?
And I love that, like, just that little bit we have you stopped and took a breath. So I'm doing something behavioral to self-regulate. I'm sorry. You didn't go into, "Oh my gosh, I was being a horrible mom." You didn't throw the guilt lines on there. You didn't throw the pity party to make the kids take care of you on there. It was just, "I have made a mistake. I am recognizing that mistake." You named the feeling. "I got frustrated." You named the behavior that was not appropriate. "So I yelled, and I should not have yelled." And then you went to the reparation. "What do you need? How can we fix this? What can I do for you?" And all of those things are so important for our kids to learn. And there's so many steps in there that you're just, let me give you this example, and blurted it out beautifully that we need those steps. And so many people did not get those steps growing up. Did not.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and not you're truly not expected to pick this stuff up off the ground and suddenly be wonderful, healthy, healed human beings, especially when you are raising small creatures in this world. It's
Mhm.
exhausting. I don't have kids and I know how much it is just from the outside looking in. You're not expected to magically know this. That's why
Yeah.
therapy is for. That's what friends are for. That is what actual healthy adult relationships that can model this stuff for you is for. All of
Yes.
it.
Absolutely. I'm raising my second set of children. My first ones are in the teenage years. That's a whole other level of learning parenting. And I am redoing the toddler years, and I am trying to do my best and take the things that I feel like I did really well, and my kids are really good at telling me I did really well. And I'm trying to do better with the things that where I was learning. I was a really young mom, so kind of reminding yourself that we're not perfect, and there's lots of manuals out there, but that doesn't mean they're right.
No. I love the manuals because it's each manual works for a specific parent and a specific kid, and not
Mhm.
necessarily well. They work. Some of them do work well, and some of them make the problems come up later. We
Yes.
won't name names. Some of them just push the problems down the line. Uh, it's such an individual experience. Each child is so unique. What they need is so unique. What you have to offer is so unique at different stages. When you were a young mom with your teenagers, there was a different energy, a different understanding, a different mentality, a different level of how much schooling you have gone through for this stuff. So many
Mhm.
things that now you can do better.
Yeah.
You've spent that many years learning how to do it. And I'm not saying you should go have another set of toddlers 10 years down the road. Please
Oh,
don't.
no,
No, no.
we're done. These 3, they're it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. I will help guide
Mm,
them with what I've learned when they get to the my older
mhm.
ones, but the younger ones have
Yes.
a while. Once we
Yeah.
get to that point of they're ready to have children.
Mhm. And that's just it. You will still have more to offer. And I think that's a lot of times I'll hear parents that get frustrated that their parents are better grandparents than they were parents, and they've had so much time to learn. There is such a different pressure being a grandparent than a parent. There's such different expectations, space to have these feelings, space to
Mhm.
make mistakes, to not feel like everything is riding on you doing it perfectly, or your child's gonna turn into a serial killer and they're gonna look at the parent and say, "It's because you only hugged them 3 times at bedtime." Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom, I mean, my mom is my role model. I love her to pieces. Um, and I know she's gonna listen to this and be like, "Oh my gosh, Jessica, why would you say that?" She was not the most nurturing mother. And I remember, like growing up, like she's very similar to me. She's not like big on the hugs and the kisses, and unless it's like, okay, I recognize you need this right now. And she worked a lot. Like, she was going through nursing school when I was a kid. She was in the army. Like, my mom has done amazing things. And she is completely different with my children than she was with me as a kid, and even as she is with me now. And I remember the first time that I was in therapy, um, and my therapist asked me, well, because they always go to, how does that make you feel, right? And they're, well, how is your mom with your kids and your mom and dad's relationship with your kids? And so my mom is the most amazing nana. Like, my kids, they just adore my mom and they have such a close relationship. She's like, "Well, how does it make you feel that your mom is super nurturing towards your kids?" I'm like, "I absolutely love it." Like, this is a totally different side of my mom, and she's in her element. And I feel like she is at a place in her life where she can be physically present to be that nurturing. And she's done her own self care and her own self work, to be able to offer that to them. And I adore that. And I love that about my mom, that she was able to make that change because she was a great mom. Like, don't get me wrong, like, she was a wonderful mom. Um, but she just is a completely different grandmother. And it's awesome to see that because my kids, I know I'm not fantastic at that, like hugs and kisses, unless I'm trying to annoy my kids because I'm just not a touchy feely person, that they get that from her, like, and it's cool to see that they can have both, and they also recognize, just because my kids aren't touchy-feely either, except for the boys. Boys are, like, clingy, they always wanna be on you. But the kids are the same way, right? Like, "Don't hug me unless you're, like, leaving for a month."
Mhm. And, like, there's so much in that too of you are in a space where there's not that bitterness. There's not that, "I didn't get this growing up, so why do my kids get this?" There's that sense of, "My kids have something awesome that I didn't get from this amazing person. Like, I got other things from this amazing person, but here is this other side that your kids get to experience, and they're getting more love, and they're getting more support, and, oh, heck yeah, let's roll with that. Alright, let's give them all the hugs they want when they want them, and some of the hugs they
Yes.
want when they don't want them just to annoy them."
Exactly, that's my favorite thing.
Yes.
They know too, like, they get that look in their eye, they start to back away, and they know they're getting ready to be smothered with kisses and hugs. Yes, but, I mean, communication, kids are excellent teachers of
Mhm.
communication while navigating your anxiety. There's just so much that I've learned about myself through them, both my children and working with other people's kids as a therapist, of how that anxiety shows up and how it shifts our communication.
Mhm. And it's I mean, because I do a lot of kids, I do a lot of teenagers, so there's I love teens, I love working with
My
teens.
favorite.
I know. There's just that they're at that point where you can see they have so much more control over the next step they take than they ever had before, and it's up to them to
Mhm.
take it, and you're just like, "Come on, just take this step, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can yes, you're going somewhere, okay." Like, but they also get so stuck. The stereotypical, "How was your day?" "Fine." "What's going on?" "Nothing." "How are you feeling?" "I don't know." "Okay." And it's great because 'cause every now and then I'll get the new clients and we'll start working through that, and it will take months of, "Do you still wanna be in here?" "Yeah." "What's going on?" "Nothing." "Uno?" "Uno it is. Let's go play Uno."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it when I'm like, I've been working with kids for what will feel like months, but it's
Mhm.
probably like weeks, right?
Yeah. Mm.
And you'll be like, "All right, you've been coming to see me for a few weeks now and you still don't talk. Like, you don't have to be here. I just want to make sure that
Mhm.
you're aware of that. Like, if you're not comfortable and you don't want to come and do this, like, let me know and I'll tell mom and dad. Like, it doesn't even have to be you." And it's always, "No, I love coming here.
Mhm.
I like being here." And then it's almost like out of nowhere, they're like,
Yes.
"Okay, I'm ready to talk now."
Yeah. And it's just finding that way to create the space that is safe enough for them to weather all the times they will test you, because it's like, if I tell you this thing, who's gonna hear it next? If I tell you this piece, who's gonna hear it next? If I tell you this, are you gonna look at me different? If I tell you this, are you gonna scold me? And, like, those little tiny drops that they do and just holding it until they finally relax enough to let down that wall and just start to say the things that are on their mind. Just start to say what they're experiencing, what they are struggling with, what they are stuck on.
Mhm.
And then, boy, do they not stop talking, and I love that.
There's even some things they tell you that you're like, "I wish you hadn't told me that." There's
Mhm.
some things that we let stay in the recesses of our brain.
Mhm. It's like, "You said the quiet part out loud. I do that too sometimes. Okay."
We're just that's not going in the notes, we're just gonna keep moving.
I keep insurance notes. They are very boring.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly, that's what I
Mhm.
tell my kids. You know, whenever they ask, "Like, what are you writing in there?" And I let them see it.
Oh,
They're like,
yeah.
"It doesn't say anything."
Mhm. It's like, it does
Basically,
that on purpose.
it says some words of the
Mhm.
fancy modalities that we
Mhm.
used and how I got you to talk to me, and then they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, you used
Mhm.
tricks on me." I sure did.
Absolutely. Do you want me to teach you them?
It's my
Because I love
magic.
doing that. Yes. But
Yes.
I'll be very upfront with the teens. I'm like, "Yeah, this is what we use." And then they're,
Mhm.
like, trying to figure out how to manipulate their parents. I'm like, "Oh, well, you wanna go to the party this weekend. Have you tried cleaning your room? Because I bet if you cleaned your room without your mom asking you first, she's gonna be so happy that when you said, 'Hey, I cleaned my room. What do you think about this party?' It's gonna be an easier conversation."
Yep.
Yeah. And they like it because it gives them more of a sense of control when those things come from their end than when it's the bargaining on the other end of, "No, you can't go because you've never cleaned your room and you haven't done the dishes and you've been fighting me on homework." It's like, "Well, you wanna go to this thing. What can you set up so that your parents are gonna be in that space of, oh, I didn't have to fight with you this week. That was really nice." And just that ability of not just using the words and trying to argue with the parents, but using your actions. What type of environment are you creating here to open this conversation more?
Right. Exactly. And kind of that instead of, "Oh, if you would just get this done,
Mm.
then you can do
Mhm.
this." I have to do that with my 11-year-old, like,
Mhm.
he's homeschooled, so that motivation to do homework is
Mm.
not there, but he rides dirt bikes and he races, and my dad takes him for personal training for it, and he knows, like, if you haven't done your homework,
Mhm.
I don't care that papa's already paid for it, like, you're not going. So and he had to unfortunately learn that the hard way, and now it's, "Hey, mom, I got this, this, and this done. Can you submit it for me? And also, Papa has my training scheduled for this day. Can I go?" Absolutely. Like, I
Yes.
don't have to play mean mom, and
Mhm.
you're happy to get your homework done. Let's do
Yes.
this.
Yeah, 'cause it is. It's just learning those different spaces of what are we contributing to the atmosphere here? Are we digging in our heels and being antagonistic? Like, mom's not going to let me go, so I'm not going to do anything for her, and I'm going to have a fight to begin with,
Mhm.
or are we going, hey, I really would like this. I know you like these things. Can we barter?
Let's work together.
Mm.
Let's get this
Yeah.
done.
Like
And it's teaching
action.
them, like, it doesn't have to be I mean, when I picture teenagers, it's like 2 rams, right? Like,
Mhm,
you guys want the same thing, and if you both just stand side by side, you can both eat together, right? But
mhm,
instead, your horns are locked, and if you can get the parents to realize, like, unlock your horns
mhm,
because that other ram, his brain's not developed, and
mhm,
all he sees is you wanna fight, so let's fight.
mhm. And so much of the time,
Mhm.
as the adults, it's all of our own stuff. We
Mhm.
already went through the headbutting teenage phase and we already went through all that. And a lot of times it's, no, I want to protect them from this. I want to protect them. Of course you do. You can't
Yes.
protect them from it by engaging in the exact same thing.
Exactly.
You don't need to be, oh, yes, you can go out to all the parties you want. You don't need to be the super permissive parent. But just where are your kids at? Where were you at? Where are you at now? Going back to that sense of, are you also bringing in the anxiety? Are you also, heading into a conversation with anyone expecting the worst, expecting a fight, expecting to be attacked and berated and having all of your defenses up? That
Mhm.
is never going to invite communication.
Yes, and even if you are that no parent,
Mhm.
right? Like, my anxiety's always there, something bad's gonna happen to my kids, I saw this in the
Yeah.
news, everything is immediate, "No, no, you're not doing this,
Mhm.
no, you're not doing that." I have a tendency of being a no parent because I am such an anxious
Mhm.
person that I will come back, like, I am always like an instant no. No, we're not doing that. But once I take a breath and I take time to like, okay, why am I saying no? And that has been something over the past couple of
Mm.
years that I've really forced myself to do instead of just no because I'm the parent. Why am I saying no? And if I can't come up with a good reason of why my instant reaction was
Mhm.
no, then I really evaluate, is this my anxiety? What am I afraid is going to happen? And how can we go about this where they can have a learning experience in a safe way and they can still do something because maybe what they're asking isn't that big of a deal and you're just
Mhm.
so hardwired to say no every time.
Yeah, and I love that because there is space for both the sides to meet in that middle. Like, you have a reason for saying no. Your anxiety has your lived experiences. They have you reading too much newspapers. They have everything that is, I know, everything that is legitimate about saying no. What is that no about? Can we actually address it and make you safer? You know,
Yes.
going back to we don't need to just lock ourselves in the house and say, I can't do anything because it's all dangerous. Well, I don't want you to go to this friend's house because I don't know where it is and I don't know anything about them. Okay. Can you meet the parents? With the teenagers, that's harder nowadays, but the little kids, you still get that wiggle room.
Can I do a full
What?
blown FBI background check on the parents?
Yes. And you absolutely can. That just takes cash. As long as you have cash, you can do that.
Wicked.
Yeah. A little bit creepy, but doable. But yeah, sometimes just a Google search will work too. That is a way of doing it though. Like, what is the actual fear? How do we address this fear and approach it safer? Can I climb the tree? No, you're going to fall out of it and die. Climb this tree, it's safer. No. Or let's take
Yes.
you to an actual climbing park that has a harness so that I can see what your grip is like. I can see what your climbing skills are. I can watch you grow so I know, yeah, you can tackle that tree, no problem. Go for it. In fact, maybe you can
Mhm.
teach me to climb.
Yes.
How do you face that anxiety instead of letting it make you run and hide?
Right. And recognizing, I think that is the biggest thing too. You can't adjust your communication until you recognize this is my anxiety creating the way I'm responding, whether it's to your
Mhm.
kids, to your spouse, to a coworker, to anybody in
Mhm.
your life. It can show up. And because it's such an automatic habit, you don't recognize, hey, this might be my anxiety. Let me kind of reflect on
Mhm.
how I need to answer this. And it's okay to go back and say, hey, I said this earlier, but I've had time to think about it. And let's kind of talk about this. This is where that answer came from. But it's okay to change my mind and I'm going to change it.
Mhm. Yeah, and retractions are legitimate. Newspapers do 'em, everyone does it. It is okay to be human and to change your mind and to recognize, "Hey, this was a me thing, not an actual unsafe thing." And some things that teenagers will ask to do are absolutely not safe and should not ever be done by your kid. If another person not related to anyone and of legal age wants to do it and videotape it for you and your kid to watch, maybe.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's why the internet exists.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Teenagers are hard, guys. We get you. I get you. I mean, I've
Mm.
got two and a quarter. One is in that preteen stage. He's not totally bad yet, but got some
Mm.
teenagers happening over here. I get it.
Oof. It's so much fun though. I love seeing
Yes.
how they're just growing into the people they're going to become. That's so cool. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, we need good people. Come on, this world needs some better ones. Go fix this. We got this. S-
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need some good teens growing up into good adults in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like shifting that, being those good teens and those good adults, right? Like how do we navigate our anxiety to be our authentic selves when our
Mhm.
anxious brains are always telling you, don't be that way,
Mhm.
be this way. This is what's going to keep you alive. This is what's going to keep you safe.
Mhm. Well, even just that wording, like, these good teens and these good adults, like, I don't have a clear "what does this mean" type of thing. It means be a decent human being. Don't kick
Yes.
puppies. That is my basic, don't kick puppies and be a decent human being. It's not hard. But
Mhm.
I can feel, like, when I said it, I could feel, like, the pressure of, "Oh, I gotta be good? I gotta be a good adult?" I don't know if I'm a good adult. I don't kick puppies, but am I a good
Yes.
adult? My bars are
Have-
pretty low.
what are your morals and values, and are
Mhm.
you authentically living by them, or are you peer
Yes.
pressured into doing other things?
Are they your morals and values? Do they benefit you? Do they benefit the people that you love that you have around you?
Yeah.
Are you working alone in a skull-shaped mountain and enslaving people in order to get your desires met? We might have to readjust some of those values. If you have an actual community and they are willing to help you build the giant evil supervillain magnet, then, maybe we just need to direct these. Yeah, like,
Yes.
it's not as much, "You have to have this moral to be a good person. You have to have this value to be a good person." Like, it's not as much that. It goes to that authenticity. It goes to, is this real? Is this really based on you? Is this based on the things that you feel and know to be true? You
Yep.
know, can you handle questioning that? Can you handle looking at those things? What happens when you question them and look at them? I think those are really good tests, because if you hold a value and you can't look at it and say, "Why is this important?" without becoming angry and defensive, what's that value based on? What is it standing on? What holds it up there for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being true to who you are. And I
Mhm,
feel like knowing when you hit that authentic self is you don't have to overthink it and question it. You just know. You feel like, okay, I'm in my zone and I'm where I'm supposed to be. And when you're questioning it, are you actually responding to things based off who you are and how you want to show up in the world? Or are you letting your anxiety navigate you instead of the other way around?
mhm, yeah, and just always comes back to that. Are you are you living or are you reacting? Are you living
Mhm.
or are you surviving? What way are we doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to choose your responses. They don't have to be reactions.
Mhm. Take that deep breath. If you can stop it before you need to apologize, it's even better, but if you can't, apologize and pick your next step.
Yeah.
That is
You can come back
the only
after and
thing.
apologize, guys.
Yeah, always, and always do.
Yes.
Sincerely.
Yeah, not just, "I'm sorry I made you feel that way," or, "I'm sorry you felt that way because I did this."
I'm sorry you were annoyed that my opinion was right and yours was wrong, but you should have done it my way anyway. These are not apologies, people.
Do a whole lesson on what
Yeah.
an apology, a
Mhm,
sincere apology
mhm.
actually is.
The more you can do your apology without relying on the words "I'm sorry," the more true it probably is gonna be. Because it's like, "I screwed up. I did this wrong. What can I do for you? Here's how I'm gonna fix it. Here's how I'm gonna do things going forward. I recognize the impact that I had on you." All of those things are important for an actual apology.
Yeah, and if you
Mhm.
truly don't know what you did wrong, ask.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay, but don't put it
Mhm.
on them to figure out how to fix it.
Mhm.
"Oh, I hear you. I did this wrong. I did this and it impacted you."
Mhm.
Okay, cool. What would make you feel like I'm repairing this situation?
Yeah.
Like,
Even like, "Is there anything you need from me right now?" It's
yeah.
like, "You told me this is what I did wrong. I'm gonna go think on that. I'm gonna work on that. Is there anything I can do right now?" And sometimes people need space. Sometimes they just need to hear that you're gonna do something about it. Sometimes they want a full 90-point plan of how you are never going to do that again, and here are the safety factors in place to make sure that never happens again. all of this stuff signed, notarized, all some people are a little extra, that's okay.
That's me. I want a whole plan. What are you gonna do to make sure
Mhm,
this doesn't happen again? And if it happens again,
mhm,
what are you gonna do?
right. Because the infraction matters, if somebody accidentally
Mhm.
steps on your toe, we're not gonna need that 90-point plan. How close they are to you and how much the thing that hurt you stabbed at who you truly are, that matters. If I sit
Yep.
here and I start making fun of Jess's purple hair and how it's a horrible color for her skin tone, I see and every time I do that, people always are like, "You don't like my purple?" I'm like, "Your hair isn't purple. Your hair is not purple.
I'm not a purple elephant
You're
today
not a
or
purple
tomorrow.
elephant today, huh?" But, and it every time I use an example like that, people are always like, I get that same face, and it's like, "Okay, we're gonna pause this dumb example.
Mhm.
What color's your hair? If I'm making fun of your purple hair and your hair is brown, as soon as you realize that, does the insult have any weight?" Like, "Wait, no, Megan's just drinking too much tea lately. I don't know. What's in those cups again?"
And that's where we take the pause, friends.
Mhm.
Why am I offended? It can
Yes.
be either direction.
Mhm.
Why am I frustrated? Why am I offended? There are
Mhm.
so many whys of just taking the time to look at what is the feeling or emotion that I'm experiencing and why, or where
Yeah,
is it coming from?
yeah, and I love that. So I think we should wrap it up with that. Take that pause, take that breath, leaves lots of room for growing into all of our mistakes and for going, "Hey, why am I upset? Is this them or is this me? Or is this environment? Did I come into here with all my anxiety from my day? Am I feeding off of someone else? Is it an eclipse this weekend and everyone's just frazzled?" Could be lots of things. Could be
All of the
lots of
things.
things. It could be all of them at once. It really could be.
Are you just overwhelmed and overstimulated and you've had enough of peopling? So the first person to talk to you is who you're taking it out on.
And that is why they invented all these cozy blankets and hoodies and quiet spaces and headphones. If you get yourself back to baseline and you have the same response to the issue, it was that issue that upset you. If you get yourself back to baseline, you're like, "Oh, wait, my hair isn't purple. It wasn't the issue."
Okay, I forgive you. My hair's not purple.
Thank you. I really didn't mean to offend you. I won't make cracks about your purple hair anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
Yes.
that.
Oh, wait, I almost forgot. We
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
got an email.
Oh, yes.
We got an email, so I wanted to read that before we went away. So we got somebody actually emailed us and shared a story. So you said I could share your story. So this is from Alexandria. And she says, "I was listening to your first episode, and it hit me when you talked about masking to be who people want versus who you are, and how you need to work to remove the mask and be yourself. I have the perfect example of why this is so true. Brief background: I did not date in high school, so many reasons, a strong one being anxiety, and then had a rough couple of years trying to find true love. Well, you can't find true love when you aren't yourself, or when a-holes make you lose what little of you that existed before you even really know who you are, but that's another story. So when I received an amazing match on my old school dating website, I was just over it and didn't care. I said to myself, I might as well be myself because he's not going to like me like I like him, and we'll just get the pain of rejection over with right up front. Well, he is the only person who has ever truly seen every part of who I actually am as a person, and we've been together for 11 years this year, married for 7, and have a beautiful 1-year old. You guys are great, and I look forward to listening to so many more episodes."
I love that. That is so awesome. And
Yes.
Alexandria, I'm so glad you found your match through being who you are. We
Yes.
all just want to be seen, right? And that goes into it. You are here. We see you. We get it.
Mhm.
And other people will see you and accept you too for who
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. And you can only be accepted for yourself if you actually show yourself. Terrifying, but needed.
Yes.
Yes. So, with that, if anyone else who's listening wants to contact us, write in. We have a website, peaceinthehealingpod.com. We have an email address, Is it
Peace in the
peace?
healing pod at gmail.com.
Thank you. I forgot that for a second. You can listen to us anywhere where you can find your podcast. We are also on YouTube, so you can see our wonderful faces and fun facial expressions every time we do random things. Oh, where else are we at, Jess? Where else are we at
Oh,
online?
we are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I have not fully started creating videos for our TikTok yet, but that is to come.
You will get there. So reach out, drop us a line if there's anything you want us to talk about. I know we did have another suggestion, so we'll probably set that up for the next episode or two. And we look forward to hearing from you all and talking to you soon. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. So take care, everyone.